the editor of Australasian Dirt Bike magazine. We are here today in Lesotho, South Africa. It's a landlocked country within South Africa, and we're here to test the My 24 KTM EXC range, both the 2-stroke and the 4-stroke. You've probably already heard it has 95%, both models, 95% new components for 2024, which is exciting. Everything from the suspension to the motor to the chassis to the fairings to the ergonomics, everything has been changed. In fact, the only things left remaining are quite low. But we'll quickly run through the things that we liked about the 4-stroke and the things that we liked about the 2-stroke and what you're probably going to notice most. And you can read about them more in detail in the feature in ADB. But starting with the 4-stroke, the fuel injection now is probably a little smoother, has a little less throttle chop, spluttering and losing that kind of rolling power. So we've noticed that's improved. The suspension is now a closed cartridge system instead of an open system. So it's similar to having that up-spec 6500 WP cartridge kit in there. That's pretty cool. The suspension feels firmer, it feels stiffer, and it probably holds up a little better and doesn't dive as hard in some of the bumps. Moving to the shock is also new. I think it's improved. It was kind of hard to tell how much it's improved. It was settled, it didn't buck, it didn't push, but the shock is certainly better. The frame is all new. It's more rigid this year, which is exciting. So we found that the frame actually helped the bike settle and stay stable across the choppy, big kind of braking bumps. I'll go into more detail about the 4-strokes in our feature in ADB, but switching across now to the 2-strokes, they have moved from throttle port injection, TPI, to the throttle body injection, the TBI system. And essentially, we found it's probably made it a smoother bit of power and more accurate, but more importantly, it's got more power down low. So the TPI system, we had some issues with struggling to grovel and crawl at really low RPM. With this TBI system, that has drastically improved from the previous model. So that is awesome news for everyone out there wanting to do all the hard stuff. Again, with the 2-stroke, it gets all the closed cartridge fork and the new shock and the new chassis and everything new. So, and much like the 4-stroke, that has improved significantly. The suspension is firmer. It doesn't dive like the old stuff. The chassis is more rigid, so it doesn't quite flex on some of the bumps either. So the 2-stroke overall is a far more improved package than the previous model as well. Two favorite capacities in the 2-stroke that is for me is the 300. I just found that the torque and the grovel that it can produce is just so easy to use. The power didn't quite sign off like I found the 250 did. So the 300 was my pick out of the 2-strokes, and the 500 EXC was my pick for the 4-strokes, mainly because there's just so much usable power. And where we rode was actually quite tricky. We're here in the mountains where they run the Roof of Africa, which is a hard enduro event, and they took us up some sections that were quite similar to where they run the Roof of Africa. And even though we were up and down big boulders, and I found that the 500, if you kind of could keep it moving, it plowed through with more control and probably more power and more grunt than the smaller capacity bikes. So the 500 was my pick. The 450 is also very impressive and a better machine than it was last year too. So the 500 and the 300, they're my two go-to bikes. But we're going to wrap it up. You can read all about each individual bike test over the next 6 issues of ADB. We're going to break down every bike, what we liked, what we didn't like, what you can expect, how you can expect it to perform in Australia. And we're also going to talk about everything that's new on the bike, so you come into this and you know what to expect from the 2024 KTMs. But it's a big thanks to KTM. It's a pretty awesome launch to get taken to a place like this. It's a very special place. The people in Lesotho are lovely. Being able to ride through villages where we have kids coming out to say hello and waving to us has been something pretty special for us. And to be able to ride some of the tracks for the Roof of Africa is also something that I'll never forget. So big thanks to KTM, and we can't wait to get these back to Australia and do more and more and more testing, and for you guys to have a chance to ride them as well.